Good morning slash afternoon slash evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm incredibly excited to share with you a powerful and eye opening conversation about heart health trends I had with a practicing cardiologist with over 2 decades of experience in the field of cardiovascular care. This isn't just a summary of textbook knowledge or theoretical research, however. This is a first hand look at one seasoned expert sees every day in real patients patterns that are becoming more alarming, especially among younger populations. From lifestyle changes to emerging risk factors and silent symptoms, this talk aims to deliver real, actionable insights that can help each and every one of us and our families and our communities better protect our heart health. So let's get started. This is Cardiology USA, an interview summary on heart health. To give you some background, this interview was conducted with a cardiologist who has spent 20 years diagnosing, treating, and managing patients with various forms of heart disease, from early stage issues to life threatening emergencies. What I found most compelling wasn't his knowledge itself, but the urgency and concern that he had when talking about heart disease trends in America. He emphasized that heart disease is no longer something you worry about in your 50s or 60s. It's starting to emerge at 30, 20, and even earlier at times, and in the 30s, 20s, and earlier. This conversation wasn't just about clinical data, this was a deep human conversation. He shared stories of patients who ignored small warning signs, of children with abnormal cholesterol levels, and of the growing burden of the current healthcare system that it's facing due to cardiac conditions. And these aren't really just isolated cases, however, they're part of a wave. But before we go deeper, here's an overview of the four key themes I'll be covering in today's presentation. First, we'll explore healthcare trends in cardiology, including which demographics are being impacted the most and how the American lifestyle is playing a role and why it's happening earlier than ever before. Second, I'll share practical advice from a real cardiologist and steps that you can take to improve your heart health and reduce risk factors today, no matter the age. And third, we'll discuss common warning signs that often go unnoticed, dismissed, and how being aware of them can lead to early intervention. And fourth, we'll discuss the silent killers that are typically going to be overlooked when it comes to heart disease, according to this cardiologist I spoke to. So, without further ado, let's begin to talk about current trends so that we can understand more about heart disease prevention. This part of the conversation was the most shocking to me. According to the cardiologist, he's seeing more and more patients under 40 with significant heart problems such as heart disease, coronary artery disease, and heart failure. And that is including individuals in their 30s, 20s, and yes, even expanding closer to younger than the 20s. And this is not really a random thing. It's driven by several interrelated factors. First off, LDL cholesterol levels, what's often referred to as bad cholesterol, is increasing due to poor dietary habits. And alongside that, calcium and plaque buildup in the arteries, which is used to be problems seen much later in life are now being diagnosed in young people. He pointed to the modern American diet as one of the largest contributors. Ultra processed foods, sugar laden beverages, and a lack of nutrient diversity are harming heart health in both adults and teens. School lunches, convenience foods, and aggressive marketing of unhealthy options make it difficult to maintain a heart friendly diet, especially for children and less aware people. Second issue is that lifestyles become more sedentary, from binge watching shows to extended screen time for work or school. Many of us, children and adults alike, are not moving enough. He said he's seeing a direct correlation between lack of physical activity and early heart complications. However, the biggest issue is that these issues typically are silent and don't typically show till a big problem such as larger amounts of chest pain and possible artery clogging and heart attacks will occur. So by the time one actually notices it, it might already be very significant damage. So, what can we actually do to protect ourselves and our loved ones? The cardiologist shared some incredibly practical advice, and while it may sound simple, the consistency with which we apply these steps makes all the difference. First, he emphasized the importance of activity, and this just doesn't mean running marathons or spending hours in the gym or even daily walks. This typically just means more simple types of physical activity like trying to get steps in every day and going on bike rides or going outside more often can cause a significantly reduced risk of heart disease. Second, he urged limiting sugar intake, particularly from sodas and processed drinks. He pointed out that artificial sweeteners are not always the better option. In many cases, they are processed by the body just like sugar is, and that causes insulin spikes and, as a result, harm to heart health. For children, he stressed the importance of building healthy habits early, such as avoiding sedentary behavior, teaching the value of real food over junk food, such as understanding nutrition for children, especially when it comes to sugars, and also making sure that they have healthy responses to exercise rather than exhaustion or chest discomfort. And this is for children and adults alike to just ensure that their heart is, generally speaking, healthy. And another big tip is tracking cholesterol levels, especially LDL, keeping an eye on triglycerides too, and don't waiting until middle age to do those checkups and starting early on. And also trying to get imaging done as well, just to make sure that heart attacks can get prevented if there is any potential fear of one. However, the main thing I wanted to discuss here was the very eye opening thing of the silent killers. And silent killers are essentially symptoms and causes that are often overlooked or brushed off or misunderstood, and yet they can be early signs of serious cardiovascular problems. For instance, chronic stress, high levels of stress don't affect your mood, they affect your heart rhythm, blood pressure, and inflammatory response over time that leads to wear and tear on your cardiovascular system, according to him. Sleep disturbances, as well, such as not being able to stay asleep for a full cycle, are another red flag. Your heart recovers and resets during sleep. If you're walking frequently, especially with night sweats or anxiety, it might not just be a bad dream, it could be a physiological warning. Chest discomfort, even mild or short lived, should never be ignored, especially if it reoccurs during or after exercise. A healthy heart should handle physical activity without resistance. He also warned against childhood habits that seem harmless and that can accumulate risk over time, such as a lack of physical activity, poor diet, or even overuse of screen time can weaken cardiovascular conditioning from a young age, setting the stage for heart disease. And the main surprising point here was that poor heart recovery is one of the biggest signs of poor heart health, since typically that can cause a show a weak cardiovascular resistance that can also be attributed to heart disease, according to him, from what he's seen in many patients. And the key message here is that just because it's not painful doesn't mean it's not dangerous. Silence does not always equal safety. And that brings us to the end of the presentation. I hope these insights from a physician who has 2+ decades of heart disease experience will serve as a wake up call and a motivator to prioritize your heart health and for those that you know. And we encourage you to share this video and to go on and tell everyone you know about heart disease and what you just learned today from us. And we live in a time here where heart disease is common, and with new technology and new knowledge, it's very preventable, especially if one has the willpower to go and make changes to help themselves along with other people in the fight. And if anyone wants to share an experience or ask questions, feel free to directly email us at cardiologyofUSA@gmail.com or our Instagram, cardiologyusa. Same for TikTok, cardiologyusa. And thank you again for your time, and let's keep our hearts and our communities healthy. Thank you.